All right, the strangers were the people who lived in this unusual country, milkmaids and sheep herders, and they wore red and yellow blouses, and the girls wore skirts with yellow spots, and there were princesses with beautiful dresses of silver and gold and purple. And shepherds were dressed in short pants and with pink and yellow and blue stripes on them, and their shoes had golden buckles, and there were princes with jeweled crowns and ermine robes, and there were also clowns in ruffled gowns with round red spots in their cheeks and tall pointed caps. But the strangest thing of all was that all these people were made of china, and even their clothes were made of china, and they were so small that the tallest one was no higher than Dorothy's knee. And at first none of the little people even looked at the travelers, and one little purple china dog with an extra large head came to the wall and barked at them. "How can we get down the other side of the wall?" asked Dorothy. The ladder was so heavy they couldn't pull it up, so the scarecrow fell off the wall, and then the others jumped down on top of him, so the hard floor would not hurt their feet. And they were very careful not to land on his head and get the pins stuck in their feet. They didn't want those pins of the scarecrow stuck in their feet. And when they were all safely down, they picked up the scarecrow and patted his straw back into shape. "We must cross this strange place in order to come to the other side," said Dorothy, "for we really must continue going south." And they began walking through the country of the China people, and the first thing they came to was a China milkmaid sitting at a China cow. And as they came near, the cow gave a kick, and over went the stool and the pail, and even the milkmaid herself fell off the stool. Splash! And Dorothy was shocked to see that the cow had broken its leg off. Oh, no. And that the pail was lying in several small pieces, and even the milkmaid had a nick in her left elbow. "See what you've done," cried the milkmaid angrily. "My cow has broken her leg, and I must take her to the mender's shop and have it glued on again." "What do you mean, coming here and frightening my cow?" "I'm really very sorry," said Dorothy. "Please forgive us." But the milkmaid was so angry, she refused to answer, and she picked up the leg and led the cow away, and the poor animal limped on 3 legs. And Dorothy felt very bad about what had happened. "We must be very careful here," she said, "or we may hurt these little people so they will never get over it." And a little further on, Dorothy met a beautiful dressed princess, and the princess stopped short, and when she saw the strangers, she started to run away. Look how little she is, see?
Yeah.
A little tiny princess. See her?
Yeah.
Now Dorothy waited to see more of the princess, so she wanted to see more of the princess, so she ran after her. But the China girl cried out, "Don't chase me! Don't chase me!" She had such a frightened voice that Dorothy stopped and asked, "Why not?" "Because," answered the princess, "if I run, I may fall down and break myself." "But you could be mended, couldn't you?" said Dorothy. "Oh, yes, but no one is never as pretty after being mended, you know," answered the princess. "Oh, I suppose not," said Dorothy. "Now, there's Mr. Joker, one of our clowns," continued the China woman, "who is always trying to stand on his head, and he's always broken himself so many times that he's mended in 100 places, and he doesn't look at all pretty. Now here he comes now, so you can see for yourself." And indeed, the jolly little clown walked on by, and Dorothy could see that in spite of all his pretty clothes of red and yellow and green, he was completely covered with cracks, and it was clear that he had been mended in many places. And Dorothy felt sad for the poor little clown, and then she turned to the beautiful princess and said, "You are so lovely, I'm sure that I would love you dearly. I'm going back to Kansas. Wouldn't you let me carry you in my basket, so when I get back home I can stand you on Aunt Em's mantelpiece?" "Oh, that would make me very unhappy," answered the China princess. "You see, here in our own country we live happily and can walk and move as we please, but whenever any of us is taken away, our joints at once stiffen, and we can only stand straight and look pretty. Of course, that is all that is expected of us when we are on mantel shelves and cabinets and living rooms. Our lives are much more fun here in our own country. I don't want to go with you back to Kansas." "Oh, I understand," said Dorothy, "and I would not want to make you unhappy for anything in the world. So I will just say goodbye." "Goodbye," said the princess. And they walked carefully through the china country, and little animals and people scampered out of the way, afraid that they would be broken. And soon they reached the other side of the country and came to another china wall. And it was not as high as the first one, and by standing on the lion's back, they all managed to scramble to the top. Then the lion gathered his legs under him, and he jumped the wall. And just as he did this, he upset a china house with his tail and smashed it to pieces. "Oh, no. That was too bad," said Dorothy, "but I think we were very lucky that we did these people so little harm. They're all so delicate." "They certainly are," said the Scarecrow, "and I'm thankful I'm made of straw and cannot be hurt so easily. There are worse things in the world than being a scarecrow." "They are so afraid of outsiders," said the Tin Man. "They must have been treated badly by those who did not understand them." And Dorothy nodded her head in agreement as she took a last look at the china wall. Yeah, they're on top of the wall. They're just looking back. And before them lay a gloomy forest. All right, we're now down to being in the country of the Quadlings. Do you want me to read the rest of it? You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. It said the 4 travelers passed through the forest safely. And when they came to the edge of the forest, they saw a steep hill covered from top to bottom with large pieces of rock. See? "This will be a difficult climb," said the Scarecrow, "but we must get over this hill." And so he led the way, and the others followed. And they had just reached the first rock when they heard a voice cry out, "Keep back!" Then from behind the rock out stepped the strangest man any of them had ever seen. He was short and stout, and he had a big head that was flat on the top and supported by a thick, wrinkled neck. He had no arms at all, and the Scarecrow saw this and did not think that such a helpless creature could prevent them from climbing the hill. So he said, "I'm sorry not to do as you ask, but we must pass over this hill whether you like it or not." And as fast as lightning, the man's head shot out, and his neck stretched until the flat part of his head hit the Scarecrow, pow, right in the stomach, and sent him falling down the hill. And then the creature's head returned to his body, and he laughed and said, "It is not as easy as you think." Look at them. Are they weird? They don't have any arms, but they have a flat head, and their head goes out like this and hits you, pow, and knocks you back down the hill. What would you think of something like that?
I'd hit him off the hill.
I don't know. It says the chorus of laughter came from the other rocks, and Dorothy saw hundreds of armless hammerheads on the hillside.
Look.
It's called an armless hammerhead. Cheyenne's going to hit him. And they realized that it was hopeless to attempt to fight these strange creatures. "Let's call the winged monkeys," said the Tin Man. And so Dorothy put on the golden cap and said the magic words. And in a few minutes the monkeys stood before her, and Dorothy ordered the king of the monkeys to carry them over the hill and into the country of the Quadlings. And at once the monkeys picked them up and flew them away. And they passed over the hill of the hammerheads, and the hammerheads yelled in anger and shot their heads high up into the air, but they could not even come close to the winged monkeys. And after they had been set down in the country of the Quadlings, the king of the monkeys said goodbye to Dorothy and quickly flew away. She used up all 3 of her wishes, didn't she?
Yeah.
And so the country of the Quadlings was rich and happy, and the fields were full of wheat, and there was plenty of rippling brooks and well-paved roads, and the houses were all painted bright, and the Quadlings were short and fat and looked chubby and happy, and they dressed all in red, which contrasted with the green grass and the yellow grain. And the monkeys set them down near a farmhouse, and the 4 travelers walked up to it and knocked on the door. And it was opened by a farmer, and when Dorothy asked for something to eat, the woman gave them all a good dinner with 3 kinds of cake and 4 kinds of biscuits, and a bowl of milk for Toto. "How far is it to the castle of Glenda?" asked Dorothy. "Oh, it's not far away," answered the farmer. "Take the road to the south and you will find it." And so they thanked the farmer and they walked away until they saw a very beautiful castle. And 3 young girls stood in front of the gates, and one of them said to Dorothy, "Why have you come to South Country?" "To see the good witch," she answered. And the girl asked them to wait a moment and went inside the castle to tell Glinda that they had come. Oh, is she a pretty good witch? Yeah, isn't she though? Now, after a few moments, the girl came back to say that Dorothy and the others were to be admitted to the castle at once. And before they went to see Glinda, they were all taken to a room where they were washed and they fixed themselves up. And when they were all quite presentable, they followed the girl into a big room where the witch Glinda sat upon a throne of rubies. And she was a beautiful witch, and her hair was rich red, and it fell in curls and waves over her shoulder, and her dress was pure white. But her eyes were blue, and they looked kindly upon Dorothy. "What can I do for you, my child?" she asked. And Dorothy told the witch her long story, and she left out nothing, and she talked for a long time. "My greatest wish now," she added, "is to get back to Kansas."
Let me see.
See, she wants to get back to Kansas. And so Glinda leaned forward and kissed Dorothy's face. "Bless your dear heart," she said. "I'm sure I can tell you how to return to Kansas, but if I do, you must give me the golden cap." "Of course," said Dorothy. "It's of no use to me now, and when you have it, you may command the winged monkeys 3 times. So Glinda smiled knowingly, and Dorothy handed her the golden cap. And she turned to the Scarecrow and asked, "What will you do when Dorothy has gone back to Kansas?" "I will return to the Emerald City and be the ruler there," he answered. And then Glinda asked the Tin Man and the Lion what they would do after Dorothy had returned to her home. And the Tin Man thought for a moment and answered that he wished to return to the land of the Winkies, and the Lion wanted to go back to his forest and be king of the beasts. And so Glinda knew that the journey back to these places would be long and difficult. And so she explained that she would use the power of the golden cap to grant the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion their wishes, and the winged monkeys would carry them safely to their destinations. And so the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion thanked the good witch for her kindness. And then Dorothy said, "You are certainly as good as you are beautiful. But you have not yet told me how to get back to Kansas." "Well, your silver shoes will carry you over the desert," answered Glinda. "If you had only known their power, you could have gone back to your Aunt Em the very first day you came to this country. But then I would not have gotten my wonderful brain," said the Scarecrow. "And I would not have received my kind heart," said the Tin Man. "And I might have stood and rusted in the forest forever. And I would have always been a coward," said the Lion. "And no beast in all the forest would have had a good word to say about me." "Yes, this is all true," said Dorothy. "And I'm glad I could help my friends. But now that they have their wishes and are happy, I think I would like to return to my home in Kansas." "Well, the silver shoes have a wonderful powers," said the good witch. "They will take you any place in the world. In just 3 steps, all you have to do is to knock the heels together 3 times and command the shoes to carry you wherever you wish to go." See, here's what you would do like this, kids. You take the heels like this, go click, 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 and then ask what you wanted, and magically the shoes would take you wherever you wanted to go. "Well, if that is so," said Dorothy, "I will ask them to carry me back to Kansas." And so she kissed the Lion and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow goodbye, and they all cried, and they hugged her tightly. And Glinda stepped down from her throne and kissed Dorothy goodbye, and Dorothy thanked her for her kindness. And then Dorothy took Toto in her arms and said one last goodbye to her friends, and clapped the heels of the shoes together 3 times and said, "Take me home to Kansas." And in a few seconds, She was whirling through the air so fast that she could see or feel nothing but the wind whistling past her ears. And Aunt Em had just come out of the house to water the cabbages when she looked up and saw Dorothy running toward her. "My darling child," she cried, as she held Dorothy in her arms and covered her face with kisses. "Where in the world did you come from?" "Oh, Auntie Em, from the land of Oz," said Dorothy. "And here's Toto, too. And Aunt Em, I'm so happy to be home again." And Aunt Em took her in her arms and gave her a big kiss. And there's the house where they lived. And she is so happy to be back home in Kansas with her Aunt Em. Did you guys like that book?
Yeah, it was really long.
You're really long and you really liked it, huh? All right, well, this is the end of the tape now, at least for tonight.